Tonight's episode includes discussions of violence, disturbing imagery, and paranormal folklore. Some events are supported by historical record, while others are based on urban legend and reported experiences. Listener discretion is advised. Imagine you're driving down a quiet road late at night. The houses slowly disappear. The streetlights become fewer and further between, until eventually, it's just you. A narrow road and miles of dark woods stretching out on either side. Up ahead, an old railroad bridge comes into view. You've heard the stories. Some people say an escaped mental patient still wanders in these woods. Others believe a violent murderer hides beneath the bridge, waiting for the next person to stop their car. And if you stay for too long, they say you'll hear footsteps coming from somewhere in the darkness. Then you'll see him. A man, dressed in a bunny costume, holding an axe. For more than 50 years, people have traveled from all over the country, hoping to experience something beneath this bridge. Some claim they've heard strange noises echoing through the trees. Others say they've seen shadows moving just beyond the edge of the road. A few even insist their cars were chased away by something they couldn't explain. But here's the real question. Is the Bunnyman Bridge really haunted? Or did one bizarre series of events in the 1970s slowly transform into one of America's most famous urban legends? Tonight, we're separating fact from fiction as we uncover the legend of Bunnyman Bridge. Hi guys, welcome to What's Done in the Dark. If you're new here, I'm Tiara. Each week, we uncover true crime cases, unsolved mysteries, haunted legends, and stories that continue to haunt people long after they happened. Tonight, we're stepping into the shadows of Northern Virginia, to a quiet stretch of road where one small railroad bridge has become one of America's most infamous urban legends. A place where people have spent decades warning visitors. Never stop beneath the bridge after midnight. Because if the stories are true, you may not be alone. So grab your blankets, lock your doors, and turn on the lights if you need to. And settle in. Because tonight, we're uncovering the legend of Bunnyman Bridge. Just outside of Washington, D.C., sits the small town of Clifton, Virginia. It's the kind of place you'd probably drive through without giving a second thought. Quiet neighborhoods, rolling woods, historical buildings, and peaceful country roads. Nothing about it immediately feels frightening. In fact, during the day, it looks like the perfect place to escape the noise of the city. But tucked away among those winding roads, and hidden beneath an old railroad overpass, is a place that has become famous for something entirely different. Bunnyman Bridge. Its official name is the Colchester Overpass, And while it may look like nothing more than an old concrete railroad bridge, it's become one of Virginia's most visited paranormal locations. Every year, especially around Halloween, people travel from all over the country hoping to experience something strange. Some are ghost hunters, some are curious tourists, others are teenagers daring their friends to stand beneath the bridge after dark. For years, the crowds became so large during Halloween season that local authorities had to monitor the area because so many people were showing up looking for Bunny Man. Depending on who you ask, the Bunny Man is the ghost of an escaped asylum patient. Others say he was a convicted murderer. Some believe he's a violent spirit trapped beneath the bridge, still searching for his next victim. But as I started to research the story, something didn't add up. Almost every version was different. Every website, every document, every YouTube video added another detail, another victim, another terrifying twist. And eventually, I found myself asking, what actually happened here? Because believe it or not, the real story is strange enough all on its own. So before we separate history from legend, let's begin with the version of the story that has been passed around campfires, shared at sleepovers, and whispered beneath this bridge for more than 50 years. If you ask 10 different people about Bunny Man Bridge, you'll hear 10 different versions of the story. Some details change, some become more dramatic, but almost every version begins the same way. Many years ago, deep within the woods of Northern Virginia, there was a mental institution. The patients housed there were said to be some of the most dangerous in the state. Violent, unpredictable. People the public believed should never be allowed back in society. Then one day, officials made the decision to close the asylum. The patients would be transferred to another facility, loaded onto a bus, escorted by guards, and driven away from the institution. According to the legend, the bus never reached its destination. Some versions claim another vehicle forced it off the road. Others say the driver lost control while navigating the winding back roads. However it happened, the bus crashed. In the chaos, several patients escaped into the surrounding woods. Police launched an enormous search. Officials combed through forest for days. One by one, most of the escapees were captured, all except for one, the most violent of them all. According to the legend, he disappeared into the woods surrounding the railroad bridge. And that's when things became truly disturbing. Not long after the escape, search teams reportedly began finding dead rabbits hanging from tree branches. Some had been skinned. Others had been ripped apart. No one knew who was leaving them there, but police believed the missing patient was still hiding in the woods, living off the land, and slowly losing the little sanity that he had left. The newspaper never reported finding him. The search eventually ended, but the strange discoveries didn't. People began claiming they had seen someone moving through the trees late at night. A tall figure wearing a dirty rabbit costume, sometimes carrying a hatchet. Other stories, it was an axe. Regardless of the weapon, the message has always been the same. Stay away from that bridge. Because if the bunny man found you first, you weren't making it home. As years passed, the legend only became darker. Some versions claim Bunny Man murdered dozens of people beneath the bridge. Others say he hanged his victims from the railroad tracks overhead, leaving their bodies swaying beneath the overpass for anyone unfortunate enough to discover them. Some stories even insist that if you stand beneath the bridge at exactly midnight, you'll hear footsteps above you. Slow, heavy, back and forth across the tracks. Then, silence. And when you finally work up the courage to look, he's gone. Or worse, he's standing behind you. Whether anyone actually believed those stories almost didn't matter, because the legend spread anyway. Teenagers dared one another to visit after dark. Friends parked their cars, driving out to the bridge with flashlights and cameras. Some laughed the entire time. Others didn't. Because there's something about standing beneath that bridge in complete darkness, knowing the story, that makes every second feel different. A branch snapping in the woods suddenly feels like footsteps. Wind moving through the trees sounds like someone whispering your name. And if you happen to glance into the woods, just for a split second, you almost convince yourself there's someone standing there, watching you, waiting for you to get a little closer. By the 1980s, the legend had spread far beyond Virginia. Books about haunted places included Bunny Man Bridge. Ghost story collections repeated it, and eventually, the internet took over. The story spread even faster, and every person added something new. Another victim, another murder, another terrifying detail. Until eventually, almost no one questioned whether any of it was true. Because the legend had become bigger than its own history. But here's the thing. As creepy as the story is, there's one problem. Well, actually several. No records have ever confirmed that an asylum stood near Bunny Man Bridge. No prison bus carrying dangerous patients ever crashed there. No mass escape was documented. And despite decades of rumors, there's no historical evidence that dozens of people were murdered beneath that bridge. So, if none of that actually happened, where did the Bunny Man legend come from? Believe it or not, the truth begins not beneath the bridge, but several miles away on a quiet October night in 1970. And trust me, what happened next was strange enough to become a legend all on its own. So, if the famous story isn't true, then where did the Bunny Man legend actually come from? To answer that question, we have to go back to October 1970. Not to Bunny Man Bridge, but to another road just a few miles away. At the time, Northern Virginia was growing rapidly. New neighborhoods were built. Construction crews were working almost every day. For most people, life was quiet. Nothing about the area suggested it would soon become home of one of America's most famous urban legends. But on the night of October 19th, 1970, something happened. And unlike the asylum story, this part is documented. According to police reports, a young man and his fiancée were parked in their car along Guinea Road. It was around 11 o'clock p.m. The couple was sitting inside their vehicle, talking, enjoying the quiet, when something caught their attention. Someone was standing outside their passenger side window. At first, they weren't sure what they were looking at. Then they realized it was a man, and he appeared to be wearing a rabbit costume. Not a full mascot suit or anything like you'd see at a sporting event, more like a white rabbit outfit with long ears. It was unusual, completely out of place. Before either of them could react, the man started yelling. According to witnesses, he shouted, "You're trespassing! You're on private property!" Then reached back and threw a small hatchet directly at their car. The hatchet crashed through the passenger side window, shattering the glass. The couple immediately sped away, terrified. They didn't stop until they reached a safe location. When they looked inside the car, they found the hatchet laying on the floorboard. They called police immediately, and officers searched the area. But whoever the man was, he had disappeared into the darkness. No arrest was ever made, and no suspect was ever identified. And for a brief moment, people assumed that it had simply been a bizarre, isolated incident. But they were wrong. Because just 10 days later, the bunny man appeared again. This time, it was October 29th. A private security guard was checking a new housing development nearby. As he walked through the unfinished neighborhood, he noticed movement on the porch of one of the homes under construction. Standing there was a man wearing what appeared to be the same white rabbit costume. Only this time, he wasn't holding a hatchet. He was swinging a long-handled axe. The security guard watched as the man repeatedly hacked at one of the wooden support posts of the unfinished house. The man reportedly shouted something very similar to what the first witnesses had heard. He warned the guard that he was trespassing. He reportedly told him, "If you come any closer, I'll chop your head off." The security guard didn't wait around to find out what he meant. He backed away, called police, and once again, the mysterious man vanished before officers arrived. For the second time in less than 2 weeks, police searched the area. Again, they found nothing. No rabbit costume, no axe, no suspect, no explanation. And after that, the strange encounters simply stopped. No more documented attacks, no more public record, no confirmed sightings from law enforcement. It was as if the man had simply disappeared or had decided he made his point? To this day, no one knows where he is. Some investigators believe that he may have been a local resident trying to scare people away that he believed were trespassing. Others wondered if it was simply someone playing a dangerous prank that got out of hand. But the truth is, no one knows. His identity has never been confirmed, and the case was never solved. But here's what's really fascinating. The man in the rabbit costume was real. The police reports were real. The witnesses were real. The hatchet was real. Everything else, the escaped asylum, the prison bus, the dozens of murders beneath Bunny Bridge, those stories appeared later. Over time, people took two very real encounters and slowly transformed them into something far more terrifying. And once that happened, the legend no longer belonged to history. It belonged to the people telling the story. It's funny how stories work. Sometimes a single strange event is all it takes. One person tells a friend, and then that friend tells someone else, and before long, the story no longer resembled what happened. Over the years, that's exactly what happened with Bunny Man. The real event slowly faded into the background, while the legend grew larger with every storytelling. A man in a bunny costume became an escaped mental patient. A hatchet thrown through a windshield became dozens of brutal murders. And a bizarre encounter on Guinea Road somehow found its way onto an old railroad bridge several miles away. And somewhere along the way, fact and folklore became almost impossible to separate. Or maybe that's exactly why the Bunny Man Bridge continues to fascinate people today. Because even after learning the real history, people still go every year, especially during the fall. Visitors drive down those winding roads hoping to experience something that they can't explain. Some bring cameras, and some bring friends, and others go completely alone. Most leave with nothing more than a good story. But not everyone. Over the years, visitors have shared countless stories of strange experiences near the bridge. Some describe hearing footsteps overhead. Slow, heavy footsteps, even though no train was passing. And when they look up, the tracks are completely empty. Others say that they've heard wrestling in the woods, only for the entire forest to suddenly fall silent. The kind of silence that makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up. Some visitors claim that they caught a glimpse into what looked like a person standing just beyond the tree lines. Tall, completely still, watching. And just as quickly as they notice the figure, it's gone. Could it have been another visitor? Absolutely. A trick of the light. Very possible. Fear playing games in your mind. Maybe. Because when we expect to experience something frightening, our brains become incredibly alert. Every sound seems louder, every shadow feels darker, and every moment catches our attention. Psychologists call this expectation bias. When we anticipate something scary, our minds naturally begin looking for evidence to support that expectation. That doesn't mean people are lying. The fear they felt was real. Their racing heartbeat was real. The chills running down their spine were real. The question is, what caused those feelings? Was it the legend, or was there truly something unusual about that bridge? We'll probably never know. But that's the beauty of urban legends. They didn't survive because they were proven. They survive because they leave just enough room for doubt, just enough room for mystery, to keep people coming back. And maybe that's why Bunnyman Bridge still has such a grip on people's imaginations. But because no one has ever completely explained why the story refuses to die, maybe the real Bunnyman disappeared decades ago. Or maybe the legend became something much bigger than the man who inspired it. Because today, people aren't just searching for an unidentified man in a rabbit costume anymore. They're searching for proof. Proof that the stories are true. Proof that something lingers beneath the bridge. Proof that some legends never really end. So, what do we actually know? We know that there was never a documented asylum near Bunnyman Bridge. We know that there was never a prison bus carrying dangerous patients that crashed in the woods. And despite what countless websites and books and videos have claimed over the years, there is no historical evidence that dozens of people were murdered beneath that bridge. But we also know something else. In October of 1970, 2 people, on 2 separate occasions, reported encounters with a man dressed in a bunny costume. Police investigated, newspapers covered the incident, and witnesses came forward. And despite searching the area, the man was never identified. That part is real. Everything else, well, that's where history ends and folklore begins. Maybe the man was simply trying to scare away trespassers. Maybe it was nothing more than a dangerous prank. Or maybe the real mystery isn't who the bunny man was, but how his story refused to disappear. Because more than 50 years later, people are still talking about him, still visiting the bridge, still standing beneath those railroad tracks, listening, watching, waiting. And maybe that's what makes this legend so fascinating. Not because we know exactly what happened, but because we don't. Every person adds more detail, one more victim, one more warning, until eventually the legend becomes bigger than the truth itself. And maybe that's exactly how legends survive. Not because they're proven, but because people continue telling them. Because sometimes the unknown is far more frightening than the answer. So if you ever find yourself driving through Northern Virginia late at night, and your GPS takes you down a quiet road, surrounded by towering trees, you may eventually come across a railroad bridge. Nothing about it looks unusual, just weathered concrete, old railroad tracks overhead, and silence. The kind of silence that almost feels too quiet. You'll probably drive beneath it without seeing anything at all. Maybe you'll laugh to yourself thinking about the legend. Maybe you'll shake your head, wondering how such an unbelievable story became one of America's most famous urban legends. And then, almost without thinking, you'll glance toward the woods for a second, just to make sure no one is standing there, watching, waiting. Because even though we know the facts, our imagination has a funny way of filling in the darkness. Thank you guys so much for joining me for another episode of What's Done in the Dark. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think that Bunnyman Bridge is simply one of America's greatest urban legends? Or do you believe there still may be something unexplained hiding behind the story? Have any of you listeners been to Bunnyman Bridge? Or do you know any other haunted locations that you think I should cover? Let me know down in the comments. I always love hearing your thoughts, and some of my favorite episode ideas have came from you guys. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcast, be sure to follow the show so that you never miss the next episode. Until next time, you guys stay safe. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you had a great 4th of July. Keep the stories coming, and remember, what's done in the dark never stays there for long. Bye.